Hello, and my name is Pete Rushmer, and I'm your host today of A Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success, or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we are here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is. I'm buzzing to be joined today by Moreton Cullimore. Moreton is the national chair for the RHA, and he also heads up 90-year-old family business, the Cullimore Group, which consists of 4 different businesses employing 100 people. He's an absolutely fantastic guy, into his rugby as well. So please do listen in, enjoy, and share with your friends. So I've just had the voice telling me that we're recording, and I've got a red light rolling. So I'm joined today by Moreton Cullimore. I'll start again. Moreton Cullimore. Sorry about that. Apologies. I need to put my teeth in this morning. So, hi, Moreton. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Obviously, I asked you to join us on the podcast today for the listeners, because your role certainly is chair at Cullimore Group and also chair of the RHA as well. I thought you'd be able to share some amazing insights about the transport sector. So a lot of our listeners are transport managers, some of them are transport consultants, some of them are drivers as well. Some of them might own their own small transport company, and obviously hopefully you'll have sort of great insights to share. So just to sort of kick things off, you're able to tell us a bit more about what Cullimore Group do and sort of the history behind your business, please, Moreton.
Yeah, that might be a question you never wish you asked, because I'm third generation. So it's a group of companies. So it does what it says on the tin. There's four or five businesses within that group. The oldest being formed in 1927 by my grandfather in Moreton Cullimore and Son Limited, and he started with a Model T Ford truck with a hand winding tipper on the back.
Nice.
Traditionally, our family were of farming stock, so we've kind of always been landowners, loosely in for hundreds of years, if you like. So we come from an agricultural background, and my grandfather needed to move things up, milk churns around and whatever. So he bought this Model T Ford, which is obviously everyone knows is the first sort of production car, and started moving his own stuff around, but also other people's goods around. And that sort of borne out the transport company that we see today. Within the group, we have Moreton Cullimore Gravels Limited, which is essentially the quarry side of our business. So we extract raw mineral in the Thames and Severn valleys, sort of in the southwest region of the UK, and that provides the building trade, construction sites, your housing developments and that sort of thing, road construction, drainage, all those sort of type things. And then off the offshoot of that, we have Cullimore's Mix Limited, which is a ready mixed concrete business. So it's trucks with the cylinders on the back that spin around and take BSI kite marked strength conforming concrete to site. Again for construction, and obviously that uses our raw material that we extract with one of the other businesses too. There's another dormant company at the moment which will be involved in the sort of development of the future use of our former quarry sites, because we restore them. We all our land that we work is our own, and we own it. We're just custodians of the land. Essentially, we own it for all our lifetime. And then obviously we've got still a farming business as well, Cullimore Farms. So still involved in cows and things like that. And I've just started a Wagyu product, Wagyu business, to try and work another angle of farming and search for those slightly better margins to try and cut across with it. So that in a very, very small nutshell is kind of what we do.
That's amazing. So broad and so far ranging. So excuse my total ignorance. What is a Wagyu business, Moreton?
Wagyu. So a Wagyu is a type of cow. To put it in the
I've just made myself sound really stupid, haven't I? I'm sorry.
No. So I mean, if you're either like a foodie or you're not. So I mean, some of your listeners may be aware of a restaurant chain that's just opened in London that's had sort of notoriety around the world called Nusret. It's kind of a Turkish guy that does this funny little action with the salt that he sprinkles on the steak. And he's there's a lot of press at the moment about him because he's just opened London, and he sells a £650 steak.
I saw the bill on Facebook. I saw there's like a bill going around that's gone kind of viral, and it's like 35 grand, and he's I know exactly who you mean now. So
I mean, essentially, Wagyu is a type of cow that hails from Japan, and people will be familiar maybe with the word Kobe beef, and Kobe is a region of Japan. It's a very similar setup to how wine works, right? So Wagyu is a breed of cow. It's very similarly related to what we know as the Aberdeen Angus. It carries a slightly higher fat content than your normal sort of everyday beef cow. But it's higher in the good fats rather than the bad fats, if you want to get health conscious about it for a minute. And the Japanese were very protective over the bloodlines and didn't release it out beyond Japan. They wanted to keep quality and have their own specific heritage and breed of it. But in the 1970s that started to change. And, over the years, Wagyu beef has been available in restaurants around the world, but the sort of higher end side of things took off in Australia, took off in America. And, you'll go to some restaurants, and if you go to a state restaurant when you go on holiday, you'll see people say, it's USDA prime, and that because it comes, from the US or Argentinian beef or whatever, and you can select where your beef comes from. And, Wagyu is just essentially another option, but it has certain qualities which the fat runs through the meat, and it gives this different texture and this different moisture. But it price per kilo, it's double what a normal UK beef breed would sort of fetch. But it produces a totally different sort of steak essentially, or beef product. It's obviously really lovely. Would I eat it every single day? No, probably not, because it does have that sort of higher fat content, but it is it's a premium product. There's not a huge amount of it in the UK, and we're raising it on the rolling hills of Gloucestershire and the Cotswolds, and naturally feeding it. Some people will be aware of the myths about it, that it's fed beer, that people sing to it, that it gets massaged and all that sort of thing. And that's come out of other old wives' tales. Let's say, I mean, there's an element of truth to it in the fact that your premium products, you do try and feed better, because obviously if you feed things better, you get a better end result, just like anything. So yeah, that I could go on for hours, because I've been studying it the last couple of years, because it was one of those harebrained ideas I had one day, sort of three or so years ago, and it's just sort of starting to come to fruition now, and some of our Wagyu has gone out on the shelves locally and things. So.
Yeah, awesome. So it's like 8 a.m. for people who are listening in, whatever time you're listening into this. It's like 8 a.m, and already my saliva's going. I reckon I could have steak. It's a bit early, but yeah. I wouldn't mind a rare bit of Wagyu steak.
Yeah, steak and eggs in the morning. What's wrong with that? Eh?
Yeah, exactly right. Well, everything according to my doctor, probably based on my blood pressure, but never mind. Anyway, okay, cool. So Cullimore Group is obviously a very large entity. How many people in total across your businesses at the minute?
So at the moment, like everyone else, we're struggling with certain elements of labour, but we're around about 100 people at the moment. I think if the economy continues to be stable and some of the labour shortage problems are answered, then that will increase. We're used to employing a few more than that, but that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Okay, fine. And how many HGVs do you run as well? How many vehicles have you got?
At the moment, we are registered on the road with 55. Obviously, we've got other plant and machinery that's in the quarries and that, but in terms of road going trucks, it's 55 at the moment. Different shapes and sizes, applications, so it's not all one type of vehicle. So a very multi-purpose fleet.
Yep. Okay, fine. So when you say that, I'm assuming you've got tippers, you've got Arctics, trailers.
Yeah, all of the above. So we've got a general haulage fleet, taut liners, also with tippers, low loaders, special types, bulkers, grain, bulk powder, because obviously we collect cement for our concrete plants. So literally a little bit of everything. And then we've got the rigid tippers, rigid concrete mixers, crane high-ab lorries. We even deliver bags of gravel to you want to be Alan Titchmarsh's and Charlie Dimmicks at home. So we know we've got many lorries delivering that as well.
Amazing. Okay. And have you always worked in the business, or did you have a period of time that you were doing other things whilst it's quite hard to go straight into a business where you're 100 people, multiple businesses, that kind of thing. How have you sort of worked your way through the business over time?
Yeah, I never thought that I would end up here. I'm third generation, as I said. My dad always aspired to have me in the business. Dad was an older father, so there was always quite an age gap between us. So the sort of in the end, it probably helped things, but there was never a logical progression like that. I think Mum always wanted me to go and do other things because she didn't want me to have the sort of business life that my father had. But yeah, I went to uni more because that's what everyone else was doing, and came out of uni. Obviously when I was at school, I was working summer holidays because it was just easy to do and get some money and all that, but also learn something and be in business. But I worked in everything from the transport office to shoveling concrete. So, and then as soon as I got my driving license, I was kind of one of the last bunch that, 96, still got 7.5 ton on my license. Yeah. So I'd be out on the smaller trucks, delivering stuff. But I came into the business for a year in my very early 20s. I didn't enjoy it, and I left. And I went and did some other things, including a postgrad. But rugby's been a very big part of my life, and in my early 20s, I was playing quite a high standard, in and out of uni, but also clubs locally, and I took my coaching certificates and all those sort of things, and then I got involved with UK Sport and Sport England for a while, and was working for them during the summer, doing elite sports camps for young rugby players that had been earmarked for professional contracts. So that's where I thought I was going to be going. It was good money, but it was money sort of only seven months of the year. So it made living as a young 20-something quite difficult, because you still wanted to go out at the weekends and having the budget when you're only earning for seven months of the year was tricky. And then I think Dad, being an older father, he was in his mid to late 60s, and he was struggling with certain aspects of business, and asked me to come in and deal with a certain project at the time and a certain problem. And I said, right, I'll do that. I will do 1 year, and it will be 1 year only. Because as I said, I didn't really enjoy it the time before when I did a year. And there was lots of reasons behind that. I did that year, and I think whatever it is, 16, 17, 18 years later, I'm still here. So
amazing. Stuck now.
Yeah.
So that was actually going to be one of my questions. Was I picked up on having had a bit of a snoop. Snoop is probably the right word. A bit of a snoop at your LinkedIn profile. That you'd got a master's in sports development. So that's with the rugby coaching and that kind of thing. Do you think? And this is one of the interesting questions that I've got for you, because we work quite heavily in the transport sector with professional development and making sure that people are properly trained and understand culture and things like that about how they can develop their businesses. Do you think that master's in sports development, that experience coaching, has helped you sort of shape the business and the way you manage people and the way you interact with your team?
I think. I mean, the label sport development on my MA is a slightly small red herring in the fact that yes, it was sport orientated, and part of the motivation for that was because if I didn't come into the sort of truck side of the business, that there was all this land that the Quarry company owns that would need to have a future use. So, as I look out the window this morning, I'm looking across lakes from former Quarry, and in a couple of years, we'll have a cable ski development the other side of the hedge on a former Quarry of ours.
Wow.
So, that's the overhead gantry that sort of pulls you around. Instead of being pulled by a boat, you're pulled by an overhead gantry on a wakeboard or some skis. So, we're developing that. So I always use that as a possible thing. But in terms of my postgrad, it was kind of, when I left uni the first time, I didn't really feel like I'd learned anything that I wanted to learn.
Okay.
I'd learned a lot of stuff, that first one was in business and management. And I'd learned, the core principles of that, but I didn't really feel I'd learned anything that fulfilled me. So that's what my postgrad was about. And plus it was another year or so of uni rugby, right? But I chose modules, things like, ethical standards and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. My MA was more about me and wanting to learn things that I wanted to learn about. But yes, inevitably it exposed me to UK sport and Sport England and coaching and that sort of thing. And I was, chairman of the rugby club when I was in Sheffield and things like that. So look, I come from a team sport. I'm about team ethos. Without wishing to sound conceited in any way, like ever since I've been sort of 14 or 15, really, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2". I'm this big blonde, blue-eyed thing that sort of walks in a room and makes a lot of noise. And I've always sort of, without any wish, had some form of leadership or sort of enthrust on me because people just seem to want to listen to what I'm saying. So I think uni and that postgrad gave me the confidence to believe in myself that I had an ability to do that. And the coaching sort of then implemented that in terms of putting structures in for young people to learn how to behave as an adult and as a professional. So yeah, it certainly gave me an insight. Did it teach me everything? No. I've certainly, I'm still at 42 years old. I'm still learning now.
Absolutely.
I've had some big lessons over the last 18 months, like a lot of people have.
Yeah.
But it certainly gave me a structured approach in terms of things of what can be achieved and the opportunities that you can afford people through a little bit more learning. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of it where I can be.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, and I'm quite interested in sort of the diversification of the business, but where, like, as the business sort of develops, you're talking about sort of reuse of the quarry. So I live miles away from you over in Peterborough, and I actually live on a housing estate that's been built on old brick pits. So we've got lakes, we've got a wakeboard park. They've turned one of the brick pits into like this water park where you've got, like you're saying, the cables, and it's got all of the jumps and everything like that. So what sort of the future plan with that? Are you going to sort of, is that building housing and that kind of thing, reusing the quarry? Is that sort of the thing that you're looking at?
So I mean, it's where most of our quarries are at the moment, we're talking about an area called the Cotswold Water Park, which is kind of between Cirencester and Oxford and Swindon. It's that sort of triangle there. It's the biggest inland waterway in the country. There's something like 200 lakes here. It's bigger than Norfolk Broads. It has a really mixed use here. I mean, it's obviously owned by lots of different sort of landowners, other quarrying companies other than myself as well, and it's actually just been designated, all the water has just been designated as triple SI by Natural England, really. We won't get into that political debate right now, but obviously it has a massive biodiverse area. On this cable ski lake that I'm talking about, we will be planting 22,000 trees. So when people talk about what does our industry do for the environment, well, yes, we've got a lot of trucks rumbling around, but there's not that many people out there that's planting 22,000 trees. So there is there is a balance, there is an offset with all that. So yeah, we've been quarrying for 60 years. So we have a lot of land that needs redeveloping or needs to be at least, financially viable to continue. Sites that are dormant, that just beautiful woods and lakes, they still cost probably 50 grand a year to maintain, because you still got to cut hedges, you still got to, make sure that there's no weeds or invasive species, or whatever. And so it still takes. So yes, a big part of my career and what my father always said was going to be what was handed over to me, was to try and establish something on the lakes. Now, there are a lot of second home developments in this area, Cotswolds being an AONB. Did I just get that right? AONB. That's quite anti more housing.
What does that mean? AONB? Sorry, again,
area of outstanding natural beauty.
Of course, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So, yeah, Cirencester is probably 15 minutes away, but that would be the nearest sort of biggest town, if you like. Okay. It's all villages around here. It's very villagey. So in terms of housing developments, it's not really an option. Obviously, also because this is former Thames Valley, this is going back to your GCSE geography or whatever GCSEs are called these days. This is old riverbed, so the water table's naturally pretty high, and there's a lot of floodplain around here, and actually the lakes help with that, right, because they store water. But in this area you can dig down with a hand shovel and you can hit water. You're naturally low in water table. So I think leisure concepts and activities for people to do, because there's hotels here, there's, like I said, a lot of second home, like the wooden lodge, sort of Scandi lodges that people like, and the sort of New England wooden lodges style type thing. There's a lot of that sort of around here, but also eco development too. So it's a really dynamic area. There is a lot of choices for holiday and time off here, but it needs more leisure activity. So that's probably more the angle that I will go down, and obviously some of the land we use after it's restored for farming as well. So it's a real mixed bag. There's no one answer for it, I'm afraid.
No, amazing. And my understanding of farming is very, very, very small, really. But I do recommend. Well, I learned huge amounts, and you'll probably roll your eyes, but I learned huge amounts from Clarkson's farm around the cost of running land and hedges and hedge cutting and all the red tape and all the BS that comes along with it. That is actually really, really challenging. I think that it was a great program to actually really demonstrate how challenging that is.
I couldn't agree. I mean, Clarkson for a lot of people is Marmite. You either love him or you loathe him, sort of thing. But I think aside from the sort of comedy aspect of what he does, that whole program was everyone was glued to it. Everyone was like, well, what's going to happen next? How's he going to get on? And actually his place isn't that far from here. So I thought it might not be. It might not be. Not far. So we do see Caleb and the others cruising around here from time to time. It's only just up the road, but you're absolutely right in terms of the program. Look, if you get away from the comical bits, which all were relevant, actually it showed you the very real struggle that farmers have, and they don't have the financial backing that that Clarkson has from Amazon TV series is
of course, exactly.
to be able to, you know, when it doesn't rain, you know, you saw him going out there with huge tanks of water trying to water the crops. It's just not practical, and he learned that. Yeah. But that is the reality, and I think actually that program probably did more for making people understand a little bit about farming than you know a lot of the trade associations have probably for a long time. So it was a good program, and I've had it recounted at me several times because people know I like a Lamborghini, people know I like a tractor. So the similarities have been thrown at me more than
oh really?
So
amazing. Amazing. I'm so glad I made the link as well then, Moreton. Amazing. Okay, so you mentioned trade associations. That brings me really nicely onto your role as the chair at the RHA. So are you able to tell me a bit about that relationship with the RHA and why it's important to you as a business owner? Sort of explain away, really.
I mean, look, as a business owner, I think you know, and all your listeners will understand this in the fact that, you know, our industry, transport, logistics, whatever you want to label it as, has been the forgotten necessity for however many decades. It's just something that functions. You know, as consumers, and we're all consumers as well. You know, we live in a culture, in a world where we just expect things to be on the shelves the next morning, right? And we are used to that overnight delivery. We are used to things just always being there, and that, you know, that happens because of the truck, because of the industry. But you know, you never really see government until recently talking about the industry, understanding the problems of the industry, or really helping the industry. And you know, the labor shortages that we now see in HGV drivers and all that's been there for a very long time, right? We've been talking about it for a very long time, the potential that this could happen, and no one's really talked about it. And you know, the RHA have been talking about it for a long time, for you know, ever since I can remember. Look, my father was an RHA member. He was also on the board of directors, you know, over 20 years ago. So, you know, again, it's in the blood. And some people have a problem with that, with the RHA, and the fact that the generational businesses are in there. But ultimately, it's a members association that represents its membership, and the membership is changing in the fact that it's, you know, offering vans, coaches, and individual and professional memberships now, which you know will increase its reach, will increase its understanding of the industry. But it's vital that somebody has a voice, because, you know, as transport businesses, we can all reach out to our MPs and go that route. But unless we have a wider, more influential body to put the industry on the map, you know, you're just not going to get heard from. And, you know, the last year or two, you know, with Grant Shapps, and again, whether you like him or you don't, he has listened to the RHA. You know, he has been listening. You know, can I say that he's taken all the actions that we need to be taken? No, but in terms of previous governments, he has been listening to the RHA, and we've been very welcomed on a platform that we've never seen before. So the RHA is vital for the transport industry. I know that people out there will also have its criticisms. But we're working harder. We've had to modernize. We've had to change. I think it was a little bit old school in the early 2000s, and it's taken some time to change that. And now, and you can see the smile happening already. Now I sit here before you as national chair of the RHA, but also the youngest national chair that's ever been. And I think that's crucial in the fact that A, it's probably the last time I'll ever be called the youngest of anything, but B, that we are really now trying to start to do things different. And I've only been in a position for 5 months. So I've come into the position as we're sort of trying to recover from a pandemic and all the rest of it. And I wanted to sort of get my feet under the table and understand the inner mechanisms of the RHA more, but I've kind of been thrust into this HGV driver shortage issue and the sort of political fallout over the last couple of months, since. But we're working on it, and I'm here for doing this job for another 2.5 years.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor a Half Dozen Things podcast. At Flagship Partners, we take road safety really seriously, and we're your road safety partnership. We help transport companies with compliance and training across their businesses, including first aid, driver CPC, and other transport management services. So if you're FORS accredited or you want to improve your operator compliance risk score, give Flagship Partners a call today.
So I'm hoping to be a fundamental part on creating the future of the RHA and what it will become, and a more representative, and continually member-led organisation that has, a very realistic platform with government and other people. The membership is growing every month, and long may that continue. But we've got a lot to do.
Awesome. Loads of questions come off the back of that. Loads of questions. So a couple around, there's something you said around like people having challenges with generational businesses in the RHA. So that was one thing that I wanted to pick up on. What is that? Is there some challenges around that?
I think because people see on the board of directors of the RHA that there's some familiar names, right? Okay. My father was on the board of directors 20 years ago. I'm on the board of directors now. There's other business, not all of the board of directors, but other business. So I think from the blinkered approach, people see. I know there was some Facebook comments a week or two ago. I think people use the term nepotism or whatever. Oh, okay. And I think that's all very well and good, but ultimately being on the board of directors is a lot of work. Being national chairman is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. I don't get paid for it, and I've got a day job, right? I've got 4 of my own companies and 100 employees to worry about post a pandemic, not just be national chair, and it takes a lot of time. So you've got to love the industry, right? So when you see these comments about, well, it's the same names. Well, look, the process, for rising through the ranks to do these things is not a complicated one. There's no glass ceilings here. I was just a younger guy in a corner of Gloucestershire in an independent business that have been RHA members since the very beginning. And in my early 20s, when I first came into the business, I got involved in the RHA. I went to the meetings, and I just thought, this isn't for me. It's not a good use of my time. All we do is talk about fuel prices and who's doing what. So I left. The business stayed in the RHA, but I stopped attending the meetings and stopped engaging. And then in my 30s, as I obviously taken over the business, people were encouraging me to go re-engage with the RHA because it's there's not that many young people that come through the ranks. These days cultures are changing and all that, but I was encouraged to get back involved, and so I started going to the sub-regional meetings and started making some noise about the changes we need to do and how we need to modernize and how we need to change our meetings so that people want to turn up. Just the very basics. Yeah. That led me to being chair of Gloucestershire and the Bristol meeting. Mm-hmm. I got invited to the regional council and eventually by having the same attitude and asking the same questions that eventually got me on to being, vice chair of the regional council. And now I'm chair of the Midlands, Western and Wales Regional Council. And then inevitably at the beginning of the year, we needed some candidates for national chair, and a couple of people asked me to put my name forward, and I didn't think my time was now, but my time is now. Yeah. So I think, look, the generational thing is when you have watched your mother or father doing something, you have a love for the industry, because it's essentially, it's not all that does it a disservice, but you've grown up about it. I was in a truck at 4 or 5 years old, and a tractor as well, if I'm honest. And I was walking into the transport office at 11 years old, and people were asking for my opinion and what trucks I liked and whatever. I worked on the weighbridge, weighing off gravel on trucks as they're left at 14 and all the rest of it. So, when you've got an organization like RHA and you've got generational businesses, of course, they're going to be in it. Naturally. Because they have lived it and they have breathed it. And any organization or association that doesn't have those people is a problem, because you need people that live and breathe it, because they understand it better than anybody else. And that's not an arrogance thing. It's just the way it is. But with any organization, you need a balance. You need the other side of it, of people that have been in other industries and have other ideas and alternative ways of doing things. And that's life, right? Life is about balance. And you need other people's opinions, and you need those conversations. I think that's crucial.
Absolutely. That reminds me, I don't know if you've read the book by Matthew Syed. If you do much reading, Matthew Syed, Rebel Ideas, about cognitive diversity and the benefit of cognitive diversity of a range of different people. Amazing. One of the queries I had, I picked up you're 5 months in, you've got 2.5 more years. Does that mean the period you have is 3 years? And excuse me for my ignorance around how the RHA works, really. So only 3 years. It feels like, with the size of the organisation, that's a real race against time to have some impact, if that's what you want to do. That's a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, well, actually, until this year, the chair's position was always a 2-year post.
Right, okay.
The board of directors are re-elected every 2 years, re-elected or not elected, or new candidates, whatever. And the chair's position was only 2 years. There was some changes to the Articles of Association, to change that, obviously, to try and modernise and give the association what it needed. And that changed to 3. So it's 3 with a potential second term of 3 if the chair wants to continue and it's supported by the board. So it could potentially be 6. I'm still dealing with the first 6 months, so I'll worry about whether we go again.
Worry about that 2 years time.
Yeah, 2 years time in a while, and whether people want me, or whether I've done a decent job or not representing the members, because that's very much where I come from. I'm here to represent the grassroots. As I said, I'm just a boy from Gloucestershire, in a gritty, gravelly environment. And, I started off in the sub-regions, listening to the people that own businesses but still drive the trucks as well. That's where I come from. My company has, a very recognisable livery, and we look very corporate and professional from the outside, but essentially we are, a small independent family run business, and so we have both fields of both ends of the spectrum, if you like, and that's what I've got to do. I've got to reconnect the members. That's my view, as well as keep pushing the RHA forward.
No, I appreciate that. Do you know what? It's inspired me. I'm going to go and join. And get involved. I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, individual, professional member, whatever. 12 months. Give it a whirl, and you've got a lot of information at the end of the phone, and the new website and all the things, and it's National Lorry Week soon. So I'm gonna chuck that in this a couple of times, as we go along. But look, it's worthwhile, and look, the association can only be as good and as strong as its members, and unless we get that intelligence, unless we get that information from the membership, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Amazing. Okay, brilliant. So let's go with it then. What is the purpose of the National Lorry Week? What is the purpose of it, and how can I help, for example, with promoting the National Lorry Week?
So each year we kind of pick. I was going to use the term different theme, but that's probably not right. But we pick a different area we're going to focus on. This year, it's about taking what is trucks and what is transport to schools and safety. And I was in a school near me last week and we were talking about road safety, and we were talking about, we're talking with children from ages of 5 to around about 12 or 13. And we were showing them where they could stand around a vehicle, where they shouldn't stand around a vehicle, the importance of wearing a helmet when they're on their scooters and the bikes and stuff, and doing, visual displays that sort of showed that, but also what a truck does, and connecting to them and asking them, how many tins of beans do you think can fit in an Arctic? And it's kind of bringing that message home in terms of, the statistic is that 97% of everything that we consume has moved in some point of its life on a truck. But people just don't get that. They just see trucks as something that's causing traffic or getting in the way or driving slower than everything else. So yeah, it's very much about taking the message to schools. It's very much about engaging with younger people to say, hey, look, there's an industry here where there's a potential vocation for you. And that's not just truck driving, that's mechanics, that's, administrative staff. It's all different things, because transport, let's face it, it's not on anyone's curriculum. It's not on anyone's agenda. And that's why we're seeing the labor force for it shrink. I mean, yes, it is a little bit of an old school industry, which we need to look at, in the fact that, culturally in this country, people don't really want to work more than 37 hours a week. And the business of trucking doesn't really go hand in hand in that, because people still want the stuff on the shelves the next morning, right? And that's very difficult to turn around in a 35-hour week. It's very difficult, and I get it. People want to be at home at 3:00 because they want to go and be able to pick the kids up at 3:15, and that's the society we live in, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how do we integrate that with what is the transport world? And that is the challenge we all have, and it's the answer we've got to find. And those answers are very difficult, because the working week is a bit longer. It is more unfashionable hours. It is overnight at times, and it like I said, there will be very few people in the transport industry that don't love it, because I think you've got to love it. You got to love it to do it. So, National Lorry Week this year is very much about taking that message to young people, and you'll see lots of videos all over the RHA website and other social media, including a little cameo from me somewhere too. And that's what it's about. I mean, previously I've made it about, and this was before my time as chair, was truck driver welfare facilities out on the road. So I championed a petition in 2019 about trying to get welfare facilities on the agenda out on the UK roads, and the campaign fell a little bit short. But I'm not going to let rest on that, because it is one of the fundamental criteria that people are leaving the industry, and truck drivers are leaving the industry. We simply must pull our socks up out there on the UK roads and get better secure parking facilities for our people that are out there on the roads. Truck driver isn't just a driver these days. They have to be a security guard and whatever else. And if we look at other places in Europe, the facilities out on the roads are much better. We need to do better, and that's what I will continue to campaign for over the next 2 or 3 years too. So in short, that's what Lorry Week is about. It's spreading the message of what it is and what we do. Absolutely.
I think it's a real challenge, because I love our industry. I feel passionately about it. I think there's a wealth of opportunity for people. There's varied work. Every day's different. It's exciting and interesting. But then I also have the challenges, which is we're not very dynamic sometimes. Things take forever in the sector to improve. We're not very good at looking after our people when we compare ourselves with other sectors, and it's a long, hard slog. So it can be difficult to promote it. It can be difficult to promote people to come in. But I think you're absolutely right. Welfare facilities is top of the agenda, isn't it? And encouraging people to come in. But I think that the general public expectation of driving an HGV is that they're away for a full week. And in reality, that I don't think there's that big a percentage of roles that are like that. A lot of driving roles are, daytime work, delivering locally, builders, merchants, the tipper work, that kind of stuff. There's, there is some balance to be had. And like you say, it's just a challenge, us finding those balances and trying to work those out, and culturally improving attitudes as well, because I think we've got an aging workforce, and there's a level of bitterness as well, I think, in some areas of the sector, that we need to try and work with those attitudes as well, don't we? To promote.
And that's the really disappointing for me. And look, I get it. I get it. There, like you say, there's bitterness out there. I get that there is, some ill feeling about how people have been treated, or that they don't have these welfare facilities, and I get it. And there's obviously a big, big concerns about drivers' CPC and things like that. I totally understand it, but the problem is conveying that bitterness on social media and destroying when we're trying to make positive images and trying to encourage a positive narrative about the industry. That isn't helping anybody. No. I mean, yes, you might get your 5 seconds of venting, but it's really not helping anybody, and especially people that are genuinely trying to do something for the good of the industry, and that's the sad part of it for me. I mean, I took a hammering on social media last week because there was the RHA put out a message, and I was talking on a video, and people used it to vent their problems with the industry. And
so disappointing, isn't it? So disappointing.
And using my name, and I think, to talk about ourselves for a minute and my own business, I've got truck drivers that have worked for me longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
I've so not all truck companies out there are bad.
No, they're not.
There's some very good ones, and of course I'm going to say that about myself, but I could give you several drivers that have worked for my business, driving my business's trucks for longer than I've been alive. I could give you a couple of drivers that even knew my grandfather, and I didn't know my grandfather. So we're a family business. We employ husbands and wives, sons and daughters, grandparents, and all that. And that's the type of business we have. And I would, and they can all come and talk to me. They can come and talk to the bloke whose name's on the side of the lorry. And therefore I take faith in that. And when you see the negativity that I got from people that have no idea about my business, no idea that I work, the work that I do for the RHA is free of charge. It's tough to take, and we got most of it taken down. But at the same time, the video that went out was trying to encourage National Lorry Week, encourage people coming to the industry, and people jump on that wagon and try and pull it apart. And no wonder that some things just don't happen when we adopt that attitude. If you need to vent, then vent. But there's ways of doing it, and destroying positivity is just it's soul destroying. But
absolutely. I'm massively behind the National Lorry Week. I think that the only way to get better is to breed positivity and to take a proactive stance on improving things. And going, nothing's perfect. It's never perfect, but let's move forward. Let's, if you're forever just living in the past and people bring in bitterness and crap all the time of the past, we're never going to move forward anyway. So we need to, I think there are some really great companies, lots of really great transport companies out there, and there's some that have got the potential to be really great. And actually, we just need to engage some of those business owners in culturally improving the way they do things, because they want to be better, but actually, have they had the development and the opportunity to develop and improve? And actually, I recognise, having spoken to you, that actually the RHA gives that, that opportunity for people to develop their skills and to, it's something that I massively believe in, that, if we can breed a better culture, drivers will get treated in a better way, and things will just continually evolve and improve and progress, which is really what's needed.
It's education and support about the regulations. The regulations are changing all the time. I mean, just look at trucks and truck technology in the last 10 years. And we've moved from Euro 3 to Euro 6 and whatever is beyond, and that's changing, and that's where the RHA comes in terms of its advice and all that, but as well. But look, I'm with you. If the people inside the industry don't stand up and be positive about it, then no one else is going to be, and we've seen that historically for years. So we've got to do it ourselves, but also put pressure on the government and our MPs to listen to us. Yeah. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do, is just keep on the back of your MP right now, because right now, when there's gaps on shelves and all the rest of it that we've seen, now is the time to really ram home the message. Without the truck driver, without the trucks, we won't get a lot. It's as simple as that. And if we don't do it now, then we've lost probably our most important opportunity for this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fantastic. I guess one of the last questions I've got is, what are the biggest challenges that you face in your role, and either as the RHA? Actually, let's go specifically. What's your biggest challenge in your role as in charge of the Cullimore Group? What as a business, what's your biggest challenge over the next 5 years?
I think I mean, obviously I'm a Gloucestershire and Wiltshire based independent, so in terms of the tipper side of my work, all my competitors are multinationals. There's a couple of other independents, but mostly it's the multinationals. Mm-hmm. Who have limitless resources, drive the prices down, so it's surviving. And the way we do that is that we provide a better service than everyone else. Our lorries are traditionally painted. They're always clean and tidy. They're always freshly painted. They've got names on the side of the doors of Charles Dickens characters. We just do things differently. Our customers are not serial numbers. Their names, their faces, their people. They have our mobile numbers, and if they need to ring up at 11 p.m. at night and change something, then we do that, and that's how we act. But again, that takes time, and again, that you don't do that in a 35-hour week. But so the challenge for us is in a very low margin industry. Let's be honest, no one's really earning anything more than 3%. Margin. It becomes about volume. So the challenge for us is holding true to our principles of integrity and great customer service and that, but keeping the big boys honest. Keep them running on their toes, because there's independents like us around, and that's an everyday battle for us. We don't have big bank loans. We don't own what we can't pay for, which is very old school, but it's kept us through a recession, a Brexit, and a pandemic. So
still fighting.
Yeah, still fighting. Still going. And look, and I think personally for me, I'm an only child. Dad was an only child. So while we're a family business, there's no other family members in the business right now. So it's all these businesses. I run solo, and of course I've got some very good managers around me, which I'm hugely grateful for, and very lucky to have, that I've found people that I can trust to work alongside. But essentially, when the chips come down and the big decisions being made, it falls solely and squarely on my shoulders. And I think that's my challenge. I have to wake up to that every day and just deal with it. And during a pandemic, I had to make some pretty quick, pretty live decisions, which will always be judged in hindsight, but that's irrelevant, because hindsight, especially with the pandemic, will say you should have, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? But at the time, you had to make a decision with what was in front of you right in that moment, and with limited information. Let's be honest, who's lived through a pandemic before?
Exactly.
So that's my challenge with Cullimores is that I have to make important decisions that affect every single person. Every employee is a name and a face. I know the family. We're all friends on social media. We all know what each other are doing. We know when we're happy and when we're sad. So I have not just responsibility as an employer, but I have a responsibility as a man, as a human being, to the people I work with, and that's very real. And it's probably a different dynamic on a leadership problem that other people in the transport industry would have, maybe.
Perfect. Really appreciate that. Thank you. And the final question is, I'll word it slightly differently this time rather than focusing on challenges. What's your goal for your role over the next 2.5 years as chair at RHA?
I think we've got to continue to improve. As I said earlier on, this is all about the members. It's all about the industry too, don't get me wrong, but it's member-led, member first. We have to make the ways that we listen to our members more effective, and we have to make sure that we have effective channels of communication with government. We have to do what we do better, and we're very much moving forward on that. We're modernising with new media, new social media, all those things. I think the transport world will change starkly over the next 5 years, and I'm on that ride. And we will have to make probably a lot of live decisions. But yeah, I think primarily it's do what the RHA does, but do it better, do it in a more modern way and in a transparent way, and with complete integrity and integration with the membership, which is growing and is now more diverse than it ever was. As I said, coaches, vans, individual memberships. It's more diverse than it ever was. So we will be met with more problems, more opinions, which is great, because it means we're educating and we're learning more about what's going out on the UK roads, and that's vital. So it's a steady progression and evolution into what the RHA should be.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome. Well, best of luck over the next 2.5 years, Moreton. And I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak to me as well. I think it'll be really valuable for the listeners to listen to the insights that you've shared. So thank you very much. And to the listeners, I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast episode. If you have, please do share it. Sign up to the RHA, find out more, and get involved in the conversation. Moreton's clearly willing to listen, and so will the rest of RHA, because it's on us to ensure that we improve things over the future. So brilliant. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you.
I really hope you loved today's episode, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe and listen out for future episodes too. Please do share it across your social media channels. We hope to reach more and help more people. If you want to find out more about me, my name's Pete Rushmer. You'll find me across any social media channel, and my business, Flagship Partners, and we're your partners in success across your business. Thank you. See you again soon.